Welcome to Talk Data to Me. Myself, Craig Stewart from Dalebrook Media. Great to be back recording another episode. It's been a while since I've done that. Been on leave, went to Sun City with the family, which was fantastic. But first guest back after my break, Durrel Ramrathan, who's the analytics and AI leader at MultiChoice Group. Durrel, how are you doing? Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, very well, thanks, Craig, and thanks for having me on your show. I've seen it on your post on LinkedIn quite a bit.
Yeah,
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems to be taking off. I'm not sure I'll ever be massively viral, but if we're getting it out to the data analytics community and they're getting value from it, then job done, I guess. Durrel, why don't you start off by giving us a little bit of a brief introduction into yourself, where you sit in the MultiChoice Group and what it is that you guys focus on.
Yeah, sure. So I sit in the custom operations space in customer group. So I look after all machine learning, analytics, AI for the space. So I have three areas that I oversee. Two of them are analytics focused, so around operational reporting, real-time customer analytics, and how does it impact customer experience, and generating insights around that inform like sort of product roadmaps and services and so on, as well as highlighting operational issues that we try and tackle in real time. The machine learning or AI team looks at more of your predictive models. So predicting customer churn, payment propensity, and so on. And we also have more of your AI stuff. So some sentiment analysis, chatbots, and so on that fall under my team.
Yeah, perfect. All right, we're going to dig into the detail of that in a bit, but I had Maloko Kawani on the show a while ago, and we're really talking about how MultiChoice is very much an insights-driven organization, how a lot of decisions are based on the insights that come out of teams like yours. Maybe just give us a little bit of your thoughts around that and how MultiChoice is this. It almost sounds like, the perfect situation. I've been working with the data analytics community for, nearly 7 years now, and everybody wants to get to this point where the whole organization is insights driven or data driven, however you want to term it. It seems like you guys are a pretty good wicket when it comes to everybody really using the insights.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're quite far down that sort of maturity curve at the moment. I think what we've done really well is partner up with sort of business and executive leadership very closely. So we've got sort of the technical teams and the business teams working a lot more closely together. Previously, and I think today in some organizations, you have these departments that work in isolation and may just throw requirements across and get some input back, and you have that back and forth. What we've done really well is integrated our technical folk, people that understand the data very well, with people that understand the business processes, customer experience. And this just transformed the way people deliver insights and the way they package those insights, which are readily available to make decisions on, right? You're not there searching for, okay, what's the why here? What is this data telling me? It's presented and structured in a way where you can pretty easily detect, what do I need from this piece of information? And what do I need to do? So I think that was a big shift. It took a lot of time, and we're still on that path at the moment. But I think it's gotten a lot better, and it's the results are very tangible. We've seen that coming through in our KPIs, in our corporate targets and stuff as well.
Yeah. It sounds like you're really talking there about the sort of convergence of data literacy and business literacy, in that the business understands the data, the insights, etc., but equally the data analytics teams really understand the business problem that they're solving. So you kind of get this common language that people are speaking. That really seems to be the catalyst for organizations really making better use of their data.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what's also key is how you measure people, right? At the end of the day, everyone's chasing a specific set of KPIs and goals that they've set out for themselves, or they have in their performance performance review. And what we've also done on the back of that really well is align everyone's KPIs to a common set of value or framework. So everybody has sort of customer experience and different customer measures on the KPIs that they need to achieve for the year. Obviously, they achieve it in different ways, but what that's done, it's allowed people to sort of work towards a common goal, rather than, you have your data analytics professionals that are working towards database uptime and, report uptime and having X amount of reports up. Now they're really geared towards producing insights that improve, for example, customer experience, which is what, someone in business is also working towards. So you create that harmony between, what they focused on. And it just brings them closer together.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Well, I think there's some good advice in there for anybody watching and listening who's trying to get an insights-driven organization up and running and maturing. Yeah, some good tips there. All right, Durrel, let's get into the main part of the conversation. So we really wanted to talk about how you're incorporating machine learning, AI, advanced analytics into your processes to really improve and evolve customer experience. And I think those are two areas that people really want to achieve. They want to achieve great customer experience, and they want to achieve sort of machine learning, AI. It's sort of an automated thing. It's personalized. It's it's smart. It gives good, intelligent insights. How have you got to that point? Maybe walk everybody through in a relatively short space of time. I'm sure you could do a day lecture on this, but how have you kind of got to that point? What has been the growth, and why have you gone after this route?
Yeah, so I think customer experience, and you see it more and more out there at the moment, is actually a hot topic at the moment. I think people are understanding that customer experience has become such a key or important competitive differentiator in the market at the moment. Right, customers are comparing the experience they get with you across the board, not only with your direct competitors, but the experience that they may get with an Apple or Google or whatever, right? And that's why it's so key to ensure that customers are getting the experience that we expect them to get, and the experience, more importantly, they expect to get. And there's a few things that come along with that. And one is understanding what's the ideal experience for the customer. And that's really where we started. Is sort of shift the mindset to say, we have to start with the customer first and work backwards. We can't really take what we have and then apply it to the customer, and make them conform to, to that set or that process. So to be able to map out the ideal customer journey as they would expect it, and then from there, identifying, what's the actual sort of experience that they're getting with now. And that's really, where the analytics comes in, where we're able to sort of measure end to end what's the experience customers are getting now. We can sort of dive very deep into customer experience measurement, but I think at the moment, lots of people rely on like NPS and CSAT and so on, which are very vague measures of customer experience. What we've done, we've tried to get a bit more intelligence to say, we've actually measured customer processes to say, how long it might take for a customer to purchase a product to get activated. If it took 10 seconds, that's great. But if it took 10 days, you don't have to ask the customer, was that a bad experience? You already know. So we mapped out, the different processes involved, and where we could, we identified, quantifiable metrics where we're able to tell. And from there, we're able to see how far we're away from the ideal journey. And then, architect, how do we move or shift, and what processes need to be changed, whether it's business processes or system processes that needed to be changed. And, that could be simple things as changing a button on a website, or it could be like a redesign end to end of a process. And that's really where we start. And it's important to ensure that you start with the basics first. You don't go with a big bang approach. I want to include machine learning, I want to include AI, and so on. And we really built on from there to determine, what are the customer bottlenecks and what do customers expect at certain touch points. So for example, if someone's coming in on our website, we found certain bottlenecks there. So what we did was we included a natural language chatbot on the website where they could easily sort of through clicks or conversation be able to complete 5 key flows, or the top flows that customers come through the website for. And that improved efficiency by 20%. We're able to deflect 20% of volumes away from our agents, by just including that there. And then from there, we've developed further to say, okay, we've sort of serviced the customer's basics need. Now we want to make sure that customers are getting value from the interaction, because to be fair, if someone's calling into the contact center or trying to chat with you on Facebook, it's most likely because they have a query or question, right? Yeah. It's not because they want to compliment you.
Yeah.
So we wanted to take those conversations and ensure that we add value to the customer. And that's really where we started incorporating a bit of machine learning, where we're able to say, okay, we have a customer coming in and this customer's of a high propensity to churn. So we're able to kick off a process flow. So if you're calling into the contact center or you're on our chat and conversing with the bot, we're able to kick off a flow that, depending on what's the propensity to churn, for example, we're able to do a number of things, whether it's offer a certain discount or provide, the top shows that you may like that's coming up, to get you a bit more interested and so on. And we've done that with a few other areas. So, sort of propensity to pay and so on, and likelihood to disconnect. And I think the key thing there was, we started small and we've built on, ensuring that the foundation was solid. We didn't go for a big bang approach. And I think that's really where some people really get stuck. They want to include everything, they get caught up in the hype. But I think, starting from the beginning, getting insights on what's your current experience, what are your current processes, how do you get better at measuring that, if you need to include some process analytics and so on. And I think that there's so much of value just by doing that foundational phase, before you get into some of the more advanced stuff, including AI or machine learning.
Yeah. If you could go back, and I think this is the one thing people always like to know, not necessarily, where people fail, but what was some of maybe the lessons that you had learned along the way? Obviously, the one is, start small. Don't try and, boil the ocean and do the whole thing end to end, straight up. But what were maybe some of the other lessons that, if you look back now, you say, yeah, we learned this, that was a really good thing, we shouldn't have done this. What sort of nuggets of gold can you share with people listening?
I think the obvious one is, the data quality aspect as well, especially when you're trying to move very quickly, you try and look over that, or think you'll come and sort it out at a later point. It always comes back to bite you. So I think, that will form part of the foundation phase that you want to address quite quickly. I think the other big one was the change management aspect. Specifically, where we had lots of issues was in the contact center. So when we were building it, yes, we built it in components, and in this case we implemented the agent assist for agents, and we thought, okay, it's great, it's going to help them improve, the AHT. We're going to increase first call resolution. But what we found is that agents were afraid to use it because to them it's going to take my job, right? They won't need.
Good point.
And we overlooked that quite significantly. And once we started with the change management to sort of position it how it's supposed to be, like it's going to add more time for value conversations with the customer and so on, that's when we saw the sort of exponential uptake, actual usage of the tool. And I mean, that was one of the key aspects that we learned. And I mean, and that's something that you need to account for like really early. So, you don't really fall over yourself and so on.
I mean, the data quality thing must have been quite a big challenge because it wasn't really structured data. I mean, even there can be data quality issues, but I assume that you were getting, unstructured data, alternative data, big data from social media, from phone calls, sentiment analysis, as you said earlier. And a lot of that can be different grammar, vernacular, all that sort of thing. That must have kind of taken a while to build the models around that, to really understand that, and then kind of find the trends and the common challenges that customers had to build out some of the processes that you talked about earlier.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, particularly with the AI bot, and I say AI in inverted commas because NLP is kind of it's on the border there.
Yeah.
When we develop sort of the agent assist and customer assist conversational sort of bots, people generally think that it's sort of a quick solution. Say, listen, I'm going to push all of this unstructured data, and the AI is going to do its magic, and it's going to give me this conversational flow. However, as we know, it's not the case. And we really had to spend lots of time sort of doing the pre-processing of the data, understanding how customers speak, the slang that they use, and so on. Especially when you're using text, it's quite difficult. You're having conversation on the chat, it's quite difficult. So what we did was we ensured that we spent lots of time, training those models from the NLP perspective. So because the last thing that we wanted was to go to customers with something that wasn't able to understand them or giving them incorrect response, because customer experience is a key sort of focus for us here at MultiChoice. And the last thing that we wanted to do was give a customer a bad experience that we couldn't recover from. So that's why we dedicated a large portion of time to ensure that we're getting that right, and ensuring we did it in phases. So we started with agent assist before we went to customer assist. So we perfected it there before we then moved on. And not to say that everything we did was successful. For example, we did try speech to text to say, listen, we're able to give a customer the opportunity to speak rather than type. Or if they come in on the IVR, they can start speaking, and we can use the sort of bot to answer them back. And this was a few years back. I mean, the technology has moved on since then. And what we found was, the experience wasn't great, because the different sort of languages, dialects, using two languages in the same sentence and so on. Technology wasn't able to handle that as smoothly as, in real time as we wanted. And that was, something that we did try, it didn't work out, and we moved on quite quickly from there. And I think that's also another key thing, is to structure projects like these, especially when it comes to AI space, in sort of small chunks where you're able to try out something very quickly, and if it works, doesn't work, and move on, rather than try and create this big end-to-end integration, and at the end you find it doesn't work, and you spend a couple of million, and you get no results to show out of it.
Yeah, I've had a few conversations recently. That's not directly related, but I'll kind of bring it back around data sharing across organizations to augment, sort of an understanding about the personas and customers and all that sort of thing. Is there enough sharing? Are there sort of mechanisms and platforms in place where learning around different types of languages and slangs and vernaculars, and as you say, using two different languages in one sentence, where groups like maybe not your direct competitors, but where these sorts of things get shared with each other, so that doesn't have to be constantly relearned all the time? Or does that not exist to your knowledge, other than the vendors who run these things being able to sort of train their own models?
Yeah, I think it more exists on the vendor side, because obviously they engage with multiple clients and able to train their specific models, using multiple sets of training data from various spaces. I think other than that, I'm not aware of a marketplace where we're able to sort of collaborate on, stuff that could be beneficial across. Because if you think about it in contact center space or digital service space, no matter what line of business you're in, that sort of model training will help, the understanding of how a customer speaks, and that sort of interaction of technology and a customer. I'm not really aware of any marketplace that exists now. I think a few companies are probably trying to monetize that stuff. Data monetization is also like, something that's picking up steam at the moment.
For sure.
And there's a few people that are in unique positions that are able to monetize certain data. So I think there's certain barriers to trade, sort of, that are impeding that. However, I think further collaboration in that space could probably yield mutual sort of benefit across.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, a good thing, I guess, to maybe bring up in the conversation and the data leaders exchange that we've got coming up in July to talk about, is there a way, I mean, obviously some is proprietary models and various things like that, but if there's the way that the community can share that sort of thing across, we can definitely bring that up. And anybody's listening, watching, and you know of a place where this exists, I know that there are data sharing platforms, but that's more sort of the actual data itself and the metadata. Reach out and let us know. All right, Durrel, before I let you go, one of the things we wanted to talk about was really shifting the tech professionals to become more outcomes focused rather than just sort of input output focused. Talk us a little bit about that, sort of how they kind of train now to think about what are the outcomes of the work that they're doing.
So I think, and I think this is a big shift in sort of mindset. I think technical professionals, generally sort of get stuck in their silos where they, understand data and technology really well. And what they miss is, how what they do impacts the customer at the end of the day. And whatever impacts the customer is the outcome, right? Because in an organization, especially a corporate, every action that someone does eventually impacts the customer in some sort of way. And I think, making that mind shift, and it was a struggle specifically for us. And what we did to overcome that was all of our sort of analytics, machine learning professionals went through customer experience training when they get on board.
Yeah, good.
And that's sort of an intensive sort of session or set of sessions that take them through from the customer journey that gets broken down into the different levels, right? So you start with what's the success my customer wants, and then you break that down into, okay, what are the business processes that support that? What are the sort of systems that then support that? And then eventually you get to sort of, okay, what the sort of data points that, eventually roll up and support your customer success metric at the end of the day. And I think what that does, it really shifts people to then understand, to say, listen, okay, I work here in this portion, but if you look, this is how it's connected to customer success. So what's my customer successful outcome? And that really shifts the mindset, and it kind of then shifts how they view what they do. It's rather than I'm doing these three things versus I'm doing these three things that impact the customer in this way at the end of the day.
Yeah, all right. And I think that kind of comes back to the point earlier around the conversion of business literacy and data literacy. So it's really good to see the technical side of your business going out and really understanding the business and the things that they do and how that impacts the customer, because I think obviously that'll circle back to a better customer experience overall. So that internal culture obviously then drives the overall customer experience. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, great stuff. Durrel, thank you so much for joining me. Great to hear your insights and sort of learning on this journey, and hope to catch up soon.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Craig. It was an enjoyable chat. Hopefully I can come back soon.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get that sorted. All right, everyone, another episode of Talk Data to Me, this time with Durrel Ramrathan from MultiChoice Group. Hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll move on to the next episode.